Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're going well. A lot to cover in this one. I can feel the energy in the room. So many people joining already. Welcome, grab a seat, press the like button. I just pinned a message there that said if you want to ask a super chat, go for it. Otherwise we'll do Q&A at the end. Welcome. Two very big important races coming up. I see the next two races as probably Max's biggest opportunity to start to take big bites at the championship. I don't see big opportunities in Qatar and Abu Dhabi. I just think dry, sandy. I don't know. Maybe he can get a little, like maybe there's a small opportunity there, but here's where the big money is going to be paid, cuz this is where it's night races, sprint races, wet races, and street circuit races in the next two. So I hope that sets the context for how important this one is and the next one is. Like I say, a lot of energy in the room. I can feel it already. Lukeman HM says, here we go. Max Flashheart says, hey Martin and chat. Alpha 007 Org says, hello. Gavin says, Martin, let's go. Let's Oj, brother. Let's get into it. This is going to be a big one. All right, I'm going to talk you guys through the live stream agenda because I've spent a long time preparing it. So I just want to run you guys through it. Like I say, questions like full Q&A at the end. I don't want to turn the live stream into just the Q&A. I want to get out there what you need to know and share as much of the knowledge as possible and give you guys an opportunity to ask me some of your questions at the end. So I think the weather's important. We'll cover that initially. Oh, a lot of loose ends that I want to cover off the back of Mexico. A lot of loose ends. Just brush up on the rules. My opinion on turn 1, lap 6, Hamilton, Verstappen, the journalism, Mark Hughes' article, Ferrari's race, but like there's heaps of loose ends that I just want to clean up. I missed a super chat, by the way, yesterday. I got to answer that one. What's the next topic? Oh yeah, sprint weekend. I just want to brush you guys up on the format, my philosophy, a quick tick on mentality. Brazil wet lines. We need to speak about that. I'm not sure if you guys saw my video in 2024, this time last year, titled something like how Max was so fast in the wet. And it's, if you'll allow me to say so, it's a good comparison between Lando and Max and the different lines. And yeah, I'll go over it. If you haven't seen it, don't worry. Just general Brazil circuit characteristics. Obviously, we're going to have probably a dry race at some point, probably in Sunday. Compounds, strategy, predictions, your questions, and so on. Okay, cool. You guys with me? You can hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Let me know you guys are alive. Okay, where do we start? Let's kick off with the weather as we always do. I'll jump over and share screen now. Now look, this is just before I do. This is not just any weather update, guys. This is not me like, oh, there's a little bit of rain on Saturday somewhere. No. How much, when, what's the wind? Like, where's it going to impact? What sessions? We need to know. Is it inter full or inter dry? Like how do we manage our lines in that situation as well? So I want to give you guys the full details. All right, let's get over to it. Here we go. All right. Hopefully you can see that on the screen in front of you. This is today. It's in the past. We don't care. Tomorrow, 26, top, sunny, partly cloudy, 0.2 precipitation. That's not much. 4 meters a second wind. That's not much either. Therefore, Friday should be good. Like good to get your running in, good to get your preparation in for your afternoon, evening sprint qualifying. I think that's super important. There's no point, in my opinion, studying for Sunday when you don't even know what's going to come on Sunday. I'd use Friday practice to get your homework done for sprint qualifying. That I really take these weekends like one session at a time, you know, like let's use practice to prepare for sprint quali. Let's use sprint quali to put us in a good position for sprint race. Let's use sprint race, if it was dry, to get us a tire read for the main races. I like to go session by session. Unfortunately, the teams all put the hard tire on and bum around for a bit. And then when it comes to their assessment, anyway, I digress a little bit. I'm getting off topic here. All right, so Saturday, this is when the rain's going to come. This is when we've got our sprint race and our main quali. This number here, 5.7 mil expected precipitation, as I've been following it, seems to be falling and falling and falling. It was 7, no, it was 10, then it was 7, then it was 6, and now it's 5. So I've been watching it during the week. It's coming less and less and less. So what does that mean? That means that if it is going to be inter, it will be just, you know, could be crossover between inter and dry. The key thing here for me, the wind, 10 meters a second. I'm going to show you guys in a minute the directions and magnitudes, but this is the biggest story because this will be your sprint race and this will be your main qualifying for the main points. So this is paid, definitely a paid day that's going to be wet. Sunday, 1.4 mil is not a lot. Again, I don't think rain will impact so much. The wind is tapering off as well. I think Saturday is your key day, and obviously qualifying. But yeah, Saturday is your key day. Let's jump over to Saturday, therefore, and have a look at what's going on exactly. So we've got each time of the day on the left, how much rain we're expecting, and I've just put in there where the sprint race is going to happen, where the main quali is going to happen as well. And check this out as well, the wind magnitude and direction. Your sprint race is going to be probably wet, extremely windy, and challenging therefore. So you can see here, it's like, for example, 11 meters per second, strong breeze from the northwest. If I just jump you guys over to the whiteboard, you've got the north map, the north thing in the middle. Northwest is going to be something like that. So it's important that you brush up in the sprint race in the wet and be like, well, what does that mean? If we carry this over, look at this, big tailwind into turn 1 in the wet. That's going to be very important, I think. Not so much 2, 3, 4. You've got favorable headwind here into this long Ferradura Laranjinha. You know, my Portuguese isn't the best, but that's going to help you. That red wind coming in as you come through here, that's going to be helpful as well. Likewise, going to help you turning into turn 10. It's not that favorable as it blows you away from the entry into Juncal, the final corner. But I think, again, turn 1 with this wind, this is going to be the key focus area for me. So what does that mean with a tailwind? Brake earlier, use your downshifts, brake softer, you know, use all of your tools, migrate your brake balance, do whatever you can to pull the car up nicely into turn 1. This is a dangerous area, guys. So keep an eye out for this in your sprint race. That's your first insight, because it's going to be wet and windy. Let's go back and keep carrying on here and have a look. So that's when the rain's going to come at 11, just before the sprint race. Beautiful, beautiful. Big rain here for main quali. You see how many blue lines are here? This is significant. This means for main quali, it's going to be probably the wettest part of the day. Sorry, I hope you couldn't guys hear me. There's still a fan in the background. Main quali is going to be the wettest part of the day. So it's going to be all about your lines, your lines, your lines. Keeping the steering wheel straight, short corners, we'll get onto it. But the wind tapers off a little bit, changes direction as well, starts coming from the west or south. So if things become a little bit more favorable, main quality sprint races is going to be a challenge. It'll be the first time they've driven out there in the wet, so it's going to be very exploratory. Cool, so I hope that helps you. If you need to watch it again, watch it again. This is the main race on Sunday. Again, I don't see much of a story here. Yeah, it might be a bit of rain. And look, we don't have the exact times at the moment. Somewhere between 9 and 3, there's going to be 0.7 of a mil. That's not much. The wind is gentle from the southeast. No big deal there. Again, guys, I draw your attention to Saturday. In particular, the first time in the wet will be the sprint race. And then you got proper rain for main quali. Cool. Clear as mud. Clear as rain. Awesome. I hope that helps you guys. Now, there are a couple of loose ends that I want to clean up off the back of Mexico. So if you just bear with me, I'm going to go through in sequence, but we're moving on to chapter 2, Mexico cleanup. The first one is the super chat that I missed at MAK790, £2. Compare Lewis technically with Charles/Max. Look, I'll answer it as best and as briefly as I can, because I want to carry on with the live stream. Of course, I missed your chat. I missed your super chat. Lewis, I really recommend you go and watch the Hungary live stream, because Hungary's long corners of constant radius, and long corners of constant radius give you the window, give you the insight into the drivers and their technique. I don't necessarily look at chicanes, hairpins, S's, double apex, or any other long corner. Long corner of constant radius is your window through which to look through for the technique. So I explained it all in the Hungary live stream. I think I've linked it already in the description of this video. So after this, you can go check it out. But Lewis brakes late, he brakes hard, he goes all in, he sorts everything out with the steering wheel. Max is very different. Max will brake gently, initially, suss the corner out. These are long corners, remember, so you've got time to feel things out a little bit. He'll go through and feel the grip. If he needs to add more steering lock, he will. If he needs to come out of the brakes a bit more, he will. On the brakes a bit more, he will. Pull more downshifts, he will. Delay his downshifts, he will. He's a little bit more like, what's going on in this corner, and, you know, how do I need to suss it out? Max also absorbs the most track width on entry. Thank you for, Gavin, thank you for that comment here about the wide entries. Yeah, Max is also typically widest of the entries because he wants to carry the speed into corner. Charles is very different. Again, these are three totally different drivers. Charles is very different. Charles often drives tight lines. I've spoken about that a lot as well. If you go back to just even last week, the week before in Austin, you'll see Lando and Charles driving a nice tight line into turn 7 and 8, looking after the front tires. That's how he won Monza 2024, looking after the front tires. China this year, I've got a short out on China, Charles driving nice tight lines. So in long corners, Charles will drive tight lines, which means he doesn't sweep in from where Max does. He puts less load through the front of the car. Actually, have a look at the qualifying analysis between Piastri and Charles in Hungary. Another good example of Charles's tight line, and that actually won him pole because Oscar made a mistake with the wide entry. So yeah, Lewis with the braking, Max with the wide entry, Charles with the tight lines. I hope that helps you. Go check out the Hungary live stream, and that's going to give you the biggest window. But thanks for the super chat, and I hope I answered it. Bang. Okay, next. I wanted to talk a little bit about Ferrari and their race pace in Mexico. I was trying to work out, like, what's going on? Why have they got pace all of a sudden in Mexico? And we start to think about the car and altitude, and we're like, cool. But then Esteban Gutierrez raised a really good point in whatever it is, F1 Nation podcast. And he said the Ferrari engine at altitude goes really well. And that's why Ferrari were up there, qualified 2-3 on the grid. And that's why Haas was up there. Ollie Behrman got P4. And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Good job, Esteban Gutierrez. So it seems to be, and as we always talk about the cars and the chassis and how that impacts them at altitude, we never seem to talk about, well, I did talk about the engines and how they are impacted, but obviously they're all really different engines, like the Mercedes, the Ferrari, whatever other engines we've got. Like, I'm going quick here, but yeah, there's going to be the Ford, is it next year, and Red Bull, Honda powertrains and whatever else. Like we've got the Renault in the Alpine. They're starting to come back to me now. So anyway, at altitude, these are all like ingesting that very thin air differently and creating their power in different ways. I guess maybe the Ferrari's got a strong engine up there in the heights at altitude. So why am I telling you this? Well, Mexico, yes, it's at high altitude, but Brazil's probably next highest on the calendar. It is at some kind of altitude, 600 to 800 meters up there. So that might help Ferrari, but I can't help but feel their car is just not there. And the Honda as well. Yeah, I missed a couple. Yeah, the Honda was also good. Thanks, guys. You guys are sharp. So yeah, like, I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, good shout, Esteban Gutierrez. The Ferrari engine seems to be good at altitude. Keep an eye out for that this weekend as well. And maybe once we get back to Vegas or something where the air is cold and thick and dense, maybe their advantage tapers away. That's all. Just keep an eye out for that. Okay, Hamilton and Verstappen lap 6 is on my agenda next. What do I want to tell you about this that I didn't already tell you? Okay, well, let's jump over to it. So just quickly, I thought that Max got the inside here into turn 1 on lap 6. I'm happy with this. Lewis is leaving the door open at this point. Max is ahead. He's first to the apex. He's on the inside. Tick, tick, tick. I'm happy with all this. He's in control of his car. I'm happy with all this. I'll bring up the regs in a sec. What I'm not happy with is how Lewis then gets the inside into turn 2, and then Max goes off the track, and it's no penalty for Max. This is where I'm like, oh, this is not quite right. Now, a lot of you guys in the comments were saying that no, in an S-bend or a chicane, then it's whoever gets it done first into that sequence of corners has the right of way for the following and subsequent corner. And then I had to look up the rules, and I'm like, yes and no, yes and no. Yes, it's in the rules, but I'm not a big fan of that at all. Let me bring up the rule book now just to walk you guys through it. It'll be this one. Hopefully you can see it here. I'll zoom in a little bit. So you guys are all familiar with this, right? I know I'm moving quickly, but we need to move quickly. You guys are all familiar with, if you're on the inside, you need to be at least front axle to mirror, which is about 2/3 of a way alongside. You got to be fully controlled, and you got to have a reasonable racing line, blah, blah, blah. If you're on the outside, you've got to be side by side. That's the biggest difference. Now, this is the part where a lot of people are leveraging and saying, hang on a minute, chicanes and S-bends, the above guides for inside and outside may apply for each element of the combination, but generally priority will be given to the first corner element. This line here, for me, is rubbish, cuz that's a garbage line, because these are guidelines at the end of the day, right? These aren't rules and regulations. These are just driving standards and guidelines. And then in this section here, it says the above guides for inside and outside may apply for each element of the combination as per what I just showed you. We should be applying them for turn 2 the same way we applied them for turn 1. And then this word here is a bit average. Generally meaning more often than not, priority will be given to the first corner element. So if I just go back to the example, and I don't know whether or not they've done this, but I hate that wording. That's not, and I'll show you why I don't like it. If they are leveraging that by saying, well, Max was ahead into turn 1, he got the move done. So what are we saying here? That anything that happens at turn 2 is just fair game? I'm not comfortable with that. You've got to, if you're going up the inside here, you've got to be able to deal with the fact that you're on the outside in the next part. And the same if you want to go around the outside like at turn 4, you know that therefore you get the inside into turn 5, and that's helpful. That's racing. That's part of it. That's part of your car positioning. I don't think you can have your cake and eat it too. So that line in the rules needs to go. I'm not a big fan of that line at all. So we can have the overtaking on the inside, the overtaking on the outside. I think all that's fine. That all makes sense. This part is dodge, guys. I'll show it to you just once again. This part here, chicanes and S-bends. The above guides for inside and outside may apply for each element of the combination. That supports what I'm saying. However, this one needs to go. Generally, priority will be given to the first corner element. That's a rubbish line. We need to cut that out. It doesn't make any sense at all. Now, let me explain to you why it doesn't make sense. Have a look at this. Who remembers this? Who remembers Fuji 2007? Because my argument would be, well, hang on. Isn't like, what's a chicane? What's an S-bend? Isn't the whole track a series of corners that are tied together? You want to talk about S-bends? Let's go over to Austin for a minute and have a look at a set of S's and what that might look like. Here's Austin. Here's a set of S's. Generally, priority will be given to the first corner. Okay, cool. So therefore, if I'm here on the inside into turn 3 and you're red on the outside, what happens for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, until we get a definitive straight down to turn 11? Where do we draw the line that this S-bend sequence has finished? You guys follow my logic? I don't like that. I think if you're on the inside into turn 3 here, then you're on the outside into turn 4, and you've just got to deal with that. That's why I think that's a garbage line. So this whole sequence here, you could argue, is a section of racetrack, particularly in the wet, guys. That rule's not going to hold water in the wet. I mean, pardon the pun. But check this out. This is exactly my point, right? Actually, I'll just go back to the whiteboard because I want to show you guys Fuji for a second. If you remember this, like if you've been following F1 for a while, you'll know it. This is Fuji. Now, these two guys, this was Massa and what's his name? Kubica in 2008 or 7, I want to say. 7 or 8, whatever. But have a look at this. You guys can see this. There's a section here where Massa dives up the inside of Kubica here, and then that's fine. Then there's a straight. Now, all this sequence in turn 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, this whole battle is in effect one battle that's ongoing. It's them getting the inside, then the outside, the inside, then the outside, the inside, then the outside, and then dealing with it the whole way. What are you going to say? Oh, well, forget about 12, 14, 13, 15, 16. Massa had the inside back here into turn 10. So therefore, come on, cuz that's not racing. That's not how it works. That's a rubbish line. So you can see what I've drawn here is that Massa had the inside here into 10. He takes the place, but then they actually go off track here. Well, Kubica does. And then Massa is here on the inside into 13. Kubica goes off the track again. Kubica's on the outside, Massa on the inside. Then Massa's on the outside, Kubica on the inside. And I don't think it's not the right way to look at something like this, which can very easily happen, like I say, in the wet, when the generally priority will given that. That's rubbish. Generally priority will be given to the first corner. I don't like that at all. I'm pretty happy with the other rules as they are, go off track, don't gain an advantage, give your places back, blah, blah, blah. But I wanted to call this out to you as you guys can see here, this is the sort of chaos that according to the rules, and the whole generally whatever, let's assume that they are doing that. Then you would go back and say, well, what happened at turn 16 and turn 14 and turn 13? Well, sorry. I've gone ahead of myself here. Turn 13, turn 12, and turn 10 is just a function of of this image here, which would be Felipe's up the inside, he's sufficiently alongside, he's entitled to the place, and therefore priority is given to the first corner. What? That makes no sense. That's rubbish. So I hope I made my point clear. I don't like that one. I don't like that part of the rule. Now it can happen in Brazil, right? If I just go back to the whiteboard. Can it happen this weekend? Of course it can. You've got like turns 1, 2, and 3 where I've already hammered this diagram with weather information. So we need to clean that up quickly. Yeah, so the same thing can happen here, right? You're on the inside into turn 1, but you've got the outside into turn 2, and that's just racing. That's just what happens. You've got to deal with that just the same. So my argument is always, yeah, try to fight and compete for the inside, and in both turn 1 and turn 2. That's what you're trying to do as a racing driver. It's disingenuous to say, well, back at turn 3, whatever happened, but we're gonna give priority to he who was on the inside into turn 1 or whatever. It's rubbish. So I don't like that. It can definitely happen this weekend. Cool. I hope we're clear on that. Okay. Now you guys may have seen my post. I'm still moving through Mexico recap, guys. Bear with me. Strap yourself in. I got a super chat. Okay, thanks, Lukman. We got to answer the super chats. Where is it? Let me go up. Give me a sec. Oh, here it is. MAK 790 again, £2. Was Schumacher's style of Max and Leclerc combined? Schumacher was more on the tight line side. Yeah, I don't think it had much to do with Max's style. Remember, those cars didn't have much downforce. So for you to be able to sweep in from the edge of the track and carry the speed, you're asking too much from the car. And they didn't have heaps of downforce to be able to deal with that. And the cars were smaller and more agile, so you could turn in from mid-track. If you want to know, go back to, like, watch the Hungary poles. Watch, like, Häkkinen's pole in 2000 or Schumacher's pole in 2001 or whatever around Hungary, and you'll see that they're not using the edge of the track like Max, Piastri, Lando are, for example. So Schumacher, more like Leclerc. More old school in that sense. Thanks for reminding me, guys. You guys have to remind me if I get a super chat. So yeah, I hope that helps. But in terms of the wet, it's all very different. Short corners, I'm going to get onto it in a second. Max Flasher, he who is on the inside rule. Yeah. Thanks, Max. Yeah, I need to get onto merch. I'm just trying to give you guys as much knowledge, as much information on things that contribute to wins, lap time, results, and performance as much as possible. I'm not doing the merch and whatever. Like, if you guys get something from it, then I'm happy. Yeah, I hope that comes across, that it's for your benefit as much as it, like, yeah, I hope that makes sense. I'm not into like monetizing the channel, making a business out of it too much. Like, I'm not, yeah. Although lower lap time socks is something that's been in the back of my mind, because socks are important and I want mad blue socks. But like for the cups and hats and stuff, yeah, I'm not that interested. Thanks, Max. That's a mad comment. Okay, now you guys may have seen my post during the week. Again, I'm still cleaning up Mexico loose ends. You may have seen my post during the week. It went pretty crazy on LinkedIn, like something like 10,000 people saw it. And it was like the inaccurate information from some of the well-respected journalists in F1 saying things that I'm going to say I don't feel like are true, but then I'm going to go a step further and be like, objectively, are just not true. I don't know why they do it. I don't know why the journalists put out this stuff about driving technique that doesn't make sense. There's no data to support it. And why would you say it in that case? So let's go through them one by one. So we already spoke about turn 1. We already spoke about lap 6 with Max going up the inside. We already spoke about this one. So I'll bring it up just to refresh where we are. We're here. So we already spoke about this. And then, so the first one, I called out 3 journalists and I said, this is not accurate. The first one was Peter Windsor, and he said, I think Max was letting Lewis through. This was about 10 seconds after this photo was taken as the guys go down to turn 4. Peter said, I thought Max was letting Lewis through. That's what it looked like. I don't know what gave him that impression. Max kept his foot absolutely pinned on the way down to turn 4. There was no way he was letting that place through. Max is going to argue that general guideline that I showed you guys before, that, hey, I got priority because I was first into turn 1 and whatever, and I got pushed off here at turn 2. There's no way Max was letting anyone through. on the run down to turn 4. Now have a look at lap 1. Turn 1, lap 1, Max let through like 4 cars, right? He let through the Ferraris he overtook. He let through the McLaren of Lando and 3 cars. So he slotted back into P4. So that's Max letting people through. He can let people through if he wants to let people through. He was not intending to let Lewis Hamilton through in this situation. I don't know why Peter said that. So I don't like to use telemetry to justify my point, but in this case I have to because I can't use the footage. Max is flat here. This is Max. Lewis Hamilton's overlay in red is flat. Max is also flat. And Max goes from lifting off the throttle straight to the brake. So, and Lewis drove further and broke later. He outbroke himself into that situation. So that's the first one that I think was inaccurate. Max letting or intending to let Lewis through in turn 4. I didn't see it. Neither in the onboard, neither in the footage, neither in the data, neither in anything else. That's the first one. The second one was Martin Brundle. Again, I respect all of these guys, but I just have to disagree with their opinion and call out why. Like, show you guys the reasons and logic as to why. Second one was Martin Brundle. Max made no effort. This was a big one for me, guys, a big one. They're getting bigger as we go through all of them. Martin and then Mark Hugh. Yeah, a lot of comments about PW on the chat. Yeah, I don't disagree, guys. Yeah. What was Brundle's one? Oh yeah, Max made no effort. This was a massive one. Max made no effort to make turns 1 to 3 and should have been penalized. This is referring to turn 1, lap 1. That's very disingenuous to Max, in my opinion. Let me have a look. I'll bring you guys up a picture. This is where it all started. This is Max got the slipstream into turn 1. Max started P5, I want to say, and got a mad slipstream off these guys. Now I want you guys to look at this image here on the left. If you're Max Verstappen getting a mad slipstream off Charles Leclerc, what are you going to do? What are the 2 things? I'll take a short break as I have a quick drink. What are the 2 things that I always say you're looking for on the start? Someone that's a regular of the channel will know. What are the 2 key things you're looking for on the run down to turn 1 to maximize your opportunities? Hide the message. Thanks, Max Flashheart. What are the 2 things that you're looking for on the run down to turn 1 off the start, which like your green eyes and your green arrows are pointing you across to the left here to say, go for those. What are those 2 things? Let me know just while I have a quick drink. Someone in the chat will know for sure. Some regular of the channel. The 2 things that I look for down into turn 1. Whoever gets it first, I'll bring their name up straight away. I'll give you guys 30 seconds. Otherwise, of course, I'll tell you. Yeah. My phone's getting the messages quicker than the one on my computer. It's here from Cameron Aikman, grip and space. Bang. So it'll come through in a sec and I'll bring it up. But yes, you're looking for space and grip. When it comes to, I'll pin it up here because you got it right. Space and grip. Absolutely. There it is there. No, they're all coming through now. All these things come through all in one go. Bang, grip and space. You're looking for a place where you've got space because you want to maximize your opportunity and speed. So you need the space to do that. And grip goes without saying, it's also really helpful. So this is why this comment from Martin is disingenuous. What are you supposed to do if you're Max Verstappen? Go where the grip and the space is to the left. That's exactly what Max did. I can't criticize Max for that. I can't crucify him for that. That's exactly what you got to do. So Max pulls out to the left and goes where the grip and the space is. If you can find one, great, take it. If you can find both, luxury, go for it. That's what made Lewis Hamilton's start in 2007 Australia so special. His first ever race for McLaren as a rookie. He found a position into turn 1 with both grip and space. That's what made that start so powerful. So that's what Max is doing here. And you guys can see it on the screen. Perfect. Bang. And I drew this on the race on the whiteboard. And I said, well, the only reason Max got shuffled out here is because there's so many cars that Lando's defending really well. I called that out. He's controlling the inside. Bang, exactly what we like. And all these cars are sucking slipstream off each other. They're all going to shuffle across to the left here. And that's why Max got pushed out in that position. There's a mad shot here from @Clive_Rose. I just saw it on Instagram. This is Max like on the curb, locked up, bottomed out, like a lot to deal with here. Obviously, I just like the photo. I thought it was a sick shot. And if you get this in like high res, I don't know, message this guy, he's a photographer, I guess. If you get this in high res, mad shot. It shows you that like what a strain Max put this tire through into turn one, like with the lock up and the bottoming out and everything. So why do I think this is a little bit disingenuous from Brundle? Well, Max went for space and grip into turn one, which is what you need to do. He's on a harder compound of tyre here, the medium, when all those around him are on the soft. He got squeezed out on the left. He brakes on the curb. He locks up the front left tyre. He bottoms out on the curb as well. He arrests the car on the grass with full opposite lock and just avoids the wall. I've mentioned like 5 or 6 things here like that Max is trying to deal with. It's very disingenuous to leverage that this is a cut and should be penalized. What was the quote? Max made no effort to make turns 1 and 3. In the context of what I said, Max made no effort to make turns 1 and 3 and should have been penalized. I think Max did his best effort to make turn 1 and 3, and I can see that, and I'm pointing you guys to the pieces of evidence as to why. That was legendary, not crashing. Absolutely. Like I called it out like an hour after the race in my post-race video, and I'm like, amazing piece of car control. If you didn't see it, for Max to arrest that car on the grass, like quality piece of driving. Now, lest we forget Imola a couple of months ago, 2025 Imola, who remembers what Max did there? Found the place with space, found the place with grip, wrapped up Oscar Piastri, wrapped up George Russell in one of the best turn one moves that you'll ever see. So who's to put it past Max for doing something similar? So I'd argue that if there was a wall on the outside of turn one, Max pulls that car up and finds a way to pull it up and takes the lead. So you're lucky there wasn't a wall on the outside. Otherwise, Max would have found a way to stop the car. So that's as far as I'd go with that one. So that's one from Brundle. I didn't agree with it, and hopefully I've highlighted the reasons why. The third and final one is Mark Hughes' article. This one was probably the worst one out of all 3, Windsor, Brundle, and Mark Hughes. The data that debunks wild Piastri theories. Curiously, no data is shown in the article. I'll bring it up for you guys now. We can have a look at it together. This is Mark Hughes' article on Motorsport. It'll be this one here. Let me just bring down this chat. Sorry, guys. Yeah, cool. This is the article here. Yada, yada, yada. No, I don't want to subscribe. Okay, cool. So here it is here. The data that debunks wild Piastri conspiracy. Again, Mark, if Mark reads this or sees me doing this, Mark, whatever, respect, take it professionally. Don't take it personally. I've never met you, so whatever. But professionally, I don't agree with the actual, as a driver coach, I don't agree with the actual sentiment of the article. So that's all. Just take it like that. Yeah, look, man, bang. The data, but not show any data. Like, come on, Mark, what are you doing? Show us the data, right? And if you can't show us the data, tell us you can't show us the data. Anyway, big story about Senna and Prost. Not interested. Again, there's no data here. A bunch of nice photos. This is probably the part that, kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It was all about the overlapping brake and throttle. So this part, like a lot of it is disingenuous. I feel like Piastri's 0.34 second loss in turn 16 and 17 comes as he had more understeer on entry, more lock, and therefore more oversteer on exit, overheating the rear surface even more. Well, I'll argue, Mark, that if you're going to overheat the rear in the final corner, the lap's over. It doesn't mean you can burn the tires in the final corner. It's not really, you know what I'm saying? Like, anyway, this just shows me that he's not that in tune with, you don't want to overheat them at turn 1 because you've got the whole lap to do. But if you burn your rear tires in the final corner, like who cares, the lap's over. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, that's not the part that rubbed me the wrong way. This is the part that rubbed me the wrong way. We see it on the time loss in turn 1. As they approach that turn, Norris eases partly off the throttle and overlaps that phase with the beginning of his braking, whereas Piastri braking later and going straight from full throttle to none does not overlap the throttle and the brake. Let's just pause there for a second, because overlapping of pedals, 99.999 times out of 100 is a no-go zone. I never recommended it. I've never recommended it. The quickest way to stop the car and break the car into turn 1 has nothing to do with overlap. If you want to overlap and combine your brake and throttle, you're going to get some very unpredictable outcomes. You need to be extremely coordinated. You would only use it in some crazy situation where you've got understeer and oversteer combined and you just want to lock the car through a long corner, for example. But in the straight line braking, that is the initial phase of braking into turn one, overlapping is not a technique. Now, that's not to say that there is no overlap. When Lando goes from full on throttle to brake, these are pedals that have to recenter in position. And if you zoom in on the telemetry 1000X, which I'm going to show you, then you will see a period of overlap as one pedal comes off and one pedal goes down. But that's like, if you zoom back out a couple of steps, that's not significant as to how Lando could pull it up. I'd be more interested in where did he brake? How much pressure did he put down? How did he use the gears and the engine braking? What line is he taking? All these things are more important to me than that, like that overlap. To claim that it's an overlapping technique is disingenuous because they naturally, like as you go from one to the other, they're not switches, right? They're pedals. So I hope that makes sense. Bang, Gavin, you said it so much better than I could. Thank you so much. There is a transition, but not necessarily an overlap. Perfect. Okay, beautiful. So in that phase where Norris overlaps the controls, he is able to induce more rotation. No. That's totally incorrect in my opinion. It's got nothing to do with rotation. The steering wheel hasn't even started to be turned in that first phase where Lando's braking. Still a lot of braking that needs to be done. Still a lot of downshifts that need to be done. The car has to be nice and straight as you enter that braking phase. And when you trail off, bang, that's when you start to enter turn one. And that's when your rotation happens. You guys know my philosophies. The steering wheel is responsible for most, if not all of the rotation. A lot of people talk about the brakes doing the rotation, the throttle doing the rotation, but very few people actually talk about the steering wheel and it doing the rotation. So steering wheel sits at number one. Then you've got your rotation tools, which is your differential setup, your brake balance, your brake migration, how you pull and pluck the gears quickly or not quickly with the engine braking, for example. These are your rotation tools. These are going to supplement what you want to do with the steering. So you can still turn in exactly the same way and turn up your engine braking. You're going to get more rotation that way just by keeping everything else absolutely the same. You can put your brake balance backwards a little bit. You're going to get more rotation into the corner, but it's not by you braking any harder or changing anything with your braking technique, using the brakes to rotate the car. No. You're using the brakes to stop the car. You're using your brake bias to help you rotate the car into the corner. So they're very distinct things because you don't want drivers to think, oh, if I want to rotate the car, I need to brake more. No, you don't want to think in that way. If you want to rotate the car, you need to wipe off more speed and use your rotation tools and then use your steering wheel to rotate the car. You've got to pull it back in that way. Anyway, so I've got a lot of problems with this article. There's no data shown. The talk about the overlap is disingenuous. The impact on its rotation is very disingenuous. And the claimed time losses also don't match the actual time losses per my source as well. So yeah, it's quite a challenge. Let's have a look here. I'll show you guys. So I'll bring this down. So this is from our usual telemetry site. And what's Lando in here? Orange. Lando's in orange here. You actually don't see any overlap here. That's the other curious thing. You see Lando come off the throttle, and as it comes down to this point here, presumably 10%, you know, he's nearly off the throttle fully, then a brake is registered of some magnitude. Now this brake here, as soon as it's like 0.01 or 1% or whatever, bang, it goes to 100 because this is either on or off switch. So there's no overlap here. Now Piastri is the same. Piastri is later. Yes, I'll give Mark that. Yes, Piastri is later. We can see that. He drives past Lando's braking point, gets off throttle. If anything, Piastri's got slightly more overlap, but none of them have overlap. This is just what happens. So I hope that's clear. There's actually no overlap. Now, if I show you guys my telemetry, this is cool. From Mexico turn one as well. This is exactly how I put the steering on in Mexico, put the brake on in Mexico. I get off throttle in turn one Mexico, and then I get the little throttle input between turn 1 and 2. Check this out. I actually have overlap, and that's the confusing thing because I don't intentionally overlap my pedals to induce some kind of magical rotation. No, as I explained before, you get out of the brakes and go on the throttle, naturally you're trading one for the other. Whoever said it before, sorry, I dropped your comment, but it was perfect. There's a transition between the two pedals, and that's exactly what's happening. So yes, there is a point at which I'm coming out of the throttle and it's 39%, and I'm putting the brakes on and it's 36%, as you can see. But they both start at the same time and they both end at the same time as well. When I'm off the throttle here, I'm on the brake here. So like I'm just trading one for the other. I wrote it here. There's no deliberate overlap here. I am zoomed into my telemetry at 100x, and to put together a story about overlap and then an implication on rotation is disingenuous. This is my post on LinkedIn. The pedals have got to come back and go down. So at this level of zoom, what do you expect? If you zoom back out, there's no, obviously. Now, the other thing is the steering wheel is straight for this whole overlap phase as well, because you're going down the gears, right? Do. It's going to be like 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. And then in the last part of the braking phase, when you begin to I've put this white line here, when you begin to trail off the brakes, then bang, you've got to trade it for your steering and go from there. It's in that phase where I would be talking about rotation and rotation tools and the impact on trail braking and rotation and so on. Not in this phase over here. Capiche? Clear? Bang, that's your third and final journalist out of the way. Cool. All right, so I know we've spent 42 minutes on the Mexico recap. Bear with me, guys. We're going to get on to Brazil now. I'm going to go start like I always do with the driver's mentality section. I found a really cool mentality and one that I kind of share and align with. And it was from, thanks guys, yeah, cool. Yeah, we're all good. We're paying attention. Beautiful. I kind of share this mentality and mindset. So it's from Sam Dicker. He is a KZ2 driver here in Australia. I guess he's competed internationally as well. Champion, multiple national champion. I love his mindset and I want to share it with you now.
I have two mindsets. One mindset is I'm here to learn and gain experience. I'm going to learn as quick as I can. I'm going to do.
I'll start it again in case you missed it. He says, I have two mindsets, and then he elaborates on the two of them.
I have two mindsets. One mindset is I'm here to learn and gain experience. I'm going to learn as quick as I can, and I'm going to do the best I possibly can. After I've done it a few times, I know I'm prepared enough for the event. The next mindset is I am better than everyone else, and I'm going there to win. Because if you go there thinking I'm pretty good, but I'm maybe not quite as good at them this certain thing, you're just leaving doubt in your own head. I truly do believe before every meeting I'm going to, even finals where I'm 3 tenths off the pace the whole meeting, I swear to you, when I sit on that grid for the final, I really believe something magical is going to happen and I'm just going to be the fastest in the final and drive through and win. And it usually gets to lap 10 and I think, oh, that's a shame, I'm not that fast. My mindset is that I really believe it's going to happen.
I love that from Sam, guys. Let me just explain and elaborate. Hopefully you could hear it. If not, I'll just break it down. Two mindsets. One behind me at the back. I'm here to learn. I'm here to study. I'm a student. I'm going to work super hard. I'm curious. I'm open-minded. I'm willing to talk to people and learn and try and all of that like beautiful humility on the backside. But then on the front, what he competes with, what he shows to the world, the mentality and mindset that you see, now I'm the best. I'm here to win. I'm going to smash everyone. Who's better than me? Do you know what I mean? I truly believe that something magical and special is going to happen when, like you said, in the final, like self-belief, self-confidence, like you have that in spades. I love that. I share that mentality pretty much bang on, word for word. I think Roger Federer, my childhood hero, shares that mentality bang on, word for word as well. In the background, Roger was working and curious and had a lot of humility like a machine. But on the front end, in the competition, what you show to the world is you walk out with confidence, you show you're here to win, it's like poker face in a bit as well, but you've also got that belief in yourself as well, that fire. And sometimes people leverage that at me. Martin, you're arrogant. Yeah, because you only see that first half of my mentality, that specialist tech. That's why I say at the start of my videos, I'm a specialist technical coach and mentor in open formula. In this video, I'm going to share with you everything I know. Bang, strap yourself in and hear it, because that's what I want you to see, is that mentality, like the confidence on the front. behind the scenes, you guys maybe see, or through these live streams you can see, but sometimes you don't see all of the other part of my mindset, which is like, hang on, what's he doing there? What's that button? What's that line? Why is he taking, do you know what I mean? And you get all that other, like, I'm not sure what's happening here. Let me dig into this a little bit deeper. What's Mark Hughes saying in this article? Let me present a story that, so you see the story on the front and you're like, who's this guy who thinks he knows everything? But then all the work that I've done in the background, you don't see. So I can be arrogant, yes, but I'm not ignorant. I'm not ignorant. I think Sam and Roger are exactly the same. You can leverage that word arrogant on the front end, what you see in the competition when the lights are on and the show is on, but you can't leverage ignorant at these people. They're not ignorant. They're very switched on and they're competing. So I love that from Sam. And I thought I'd share that with you. A very good mindset to take into your workplace, to have in whatever you're doing, like whatever your goals and objectives are. I thought I'd share it with you in the mindset section of this podcast. I love that from Sam. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to talk to you guys now about the sprint weekend format and my philosophy. Let's have a quick look at it. We're going to move into the Brazil section of the live stream now. Bang. So this is how it's going to work. Friday, FP1, 60 minutes. That's going to be dry. That's your opportunity, FP1, to do your homework for sprint qualifying. That's the way I see it. A lot of the guys are going to practice race in that session. I wouldn't be. I'd be going, what do I need to know about these tires and how they switch on or don't switch on, or the longevity of them over the lap, or the ideal temperature, or the car setup, or whatever. I want that for sprint quality. I want to start this sprint that's going to be raining on Saturday from as high up as possible. I'm going to be out of the carbon fiber zone. I'm going to be able to see where I'm going, less spray, less aero wash. Give me the track position. Thank you very much. And obviously I'll work it out for qualifying. So sprint and quali, that's the rainy Saturday, and then the Grand Prix full distance as per usual. Clear? What else do I need to show you about the sprints? Yeah, so basically I won't show you it now because I don't want to spend too much time on it, but you've got to use the medium in first part of quali, the medium in the second part of quali, and then the soft in the final part of quali if you make it there. So that's where I'd be doing my study, on the mediums, on the softs, on light fuel, getting a feel for that. Obviously, like, sure, clean the track up in the first few minutes. Like, you're going to have extra dry compounds now because of the rain. So go out there, put about, 20 laps worth of fuel in the car on the medium, do 10 laps, get it set up, bang, quali. So it needs to be like that. That's the way I think it needs to go. So that's the sprint format and my philosophy. And I think I'd share that with you in the context of the weather that we spoke about before and how important this sprint quali is going to be. This is probably the section of the video now as I move into Brazil wet lines, probably the section that you guys came here for. I'm going to talk to you guys now about short corners, wet lines, the Brazil track, why Max was so quick last year, how you can understand this and use that knowledge in your own driving, whether you're karting, you're racing online, or you're driving around the roads or whatever. Cool. Okay. So in the wet, let me just give you guys a bit of theory. I'll come over to the whiteboard. I'll come over to the whiteboard in a second. In the wet, the theory is you want to do short corners. The first thing you need to identify is where's the rubber. That's the first thing. If you can't identify that or you can't feel that, you're going to struggle because you need to know where that is in the first instance to then be able to say, okay, I want to go off that rubber, and ask yourself the question, is it actually feasible to go off that rubber? How long is the corner? It needs to be sufficiently long for you to want to go off the rubber and do your rotation out somewhere a little bit cleaner. Remember, the rubber in the wet is very slippery, so you need to know where that is and then zigzag across it. Max does this as near as makes no difference each and every single time, zigzagging his way across the rubber, across the usual racing line, and leveraging short corner techniques. Let me bring you over to the whiteboard now and just brush you up and define you guys what a short corner is. You need a long-ish corner to be able to do it, at least in the dry. And in the wet, then, you can do it in other places and go searching for grip. But let me just draw for you a long corner of constant radius and a normal racing line in red, which will look something like that. You're going this way. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a normal geometric racing line. The short corner says you're going to come out, do your rotation really condensed, and get on throttle nice and early. You take a late apex over here. So that's that, right? Now, why is this called a short corner? Well, you faster in, extend the straight coming in, small rotation. That's your short corner there. It's very short. That's it there, that small rotation period. And then crucially, you got the steering wheel straight on the way out. Now, why is this powerful in the wet? Again, you guys need to know where the usual rubber, the usual racing line is. Let me show it to you now. Get this. Yeah, that should be fine. So yeah, the rubber will be somewhere across the red line, something like that, right? That's the racing rubber that goes down when the tires trade their grip with the track, right? Now, as you can see, the short corner, how awesome it is. When you cross the rubber, the steering wheel is as straight as possible. Beautiful. So you got the steering wheel straight when braking. Crucially, you ask the car to do your rotation off the rubber. It's easy to rotate, no problem. And then when you're going for traction on the way out, you've got your steering wheel straight. Once again, beautiful. When you cross that rubber, you don't need to worry about anything dodgy happening to the car because, again, the steering wheel is straight. So you're straighter on the way in, straighter on the way out, short corner. That's the way to drive in the wet. Now, look, I'm generalizing here, but there is a case for driving tight lines in the wet as well, just depending on the type of corner. Like you might want to, for example, you can also avoid the rubber here, drive a tight line, and you can do something like that. There's nothing wrong with that. Lewis drives like that in the wet. Max drives like I drew the short corner before. Lewis will still break off the rubber and dive in, and he'll work everything out on the rubber here. It can get a bit slippery at this point in the middle of the corner, but that's fine. He takes advantage of the braking grip. The problem is you got to try to rotate the car on the rubber. Lewis is quite hard. So Lewis does that, but that's fine. There is a time and a place for that as well. An early entry into the corner. But there is a difference as well when it's intermediate versus full wet. When it's intermediate, and if it's like intermediate is quite a big scope and quite a big range, right? So when it's intermediate, it can be intermediate tending towards dry, in which case dry lines start to get closer. The cars can carry more speed and more downforce. You take more traditional geometric lines. The rubber's not that slippery anymore. The intermediate switched on, it's warm, that's great. But there is also intermediate tending to full wet, which moves more towards the short corners. Now that's the intermediate spectrum. But then when you switch over to full wet, that's when I really feel like short corners is going to come into its own. Does that make sense? You got to identify the rubber and zigzag your way through it. So I'm going to show you guys, if you haven't seen the video from 2024, I'm going to walk you guys through it. Check this out. This is cool. I love this. So this is Lando's pole lap and Max's fastest lap in the race. Those are the only two onboards that I had access to at that time. Lando's pole lap and Max's fastest lap. Yeah, okay, say what you want, like they're different laps, track conditions different, blah, blah, blah. But the driver, like when you look, and I'm going to show you guys telemetry in the race that supports that these drivers are taking these corners differently, because at certain laps in the race, condition for condition, tire for tire, fuel for fuel, car for car, not car for car, but tire for tire, Max is finding lap time in the exact same spots that I show you here. So it's like as if Lando's the technique is not quite there, and Max's technique is much better, and it's short corners, and Lando's driving more traditional geometric. And yeah, there's a big lap time difference across here. Now, if anything, the lap time difference is here. Max is doing 2021s at this time in the race. Lando qualified on a 23. So if anything, like I said before, when it dries up and it gets intermediate more towards dry, then if anything, traditional lines would be the play. But this is the slower lap time. So you guys have got to look at it from a few different angles and not just say, well, this is 2 different days and whatever. Let me show you the lines that these guys are taking through the corner. I drew it out before. In gray, I've drawn for you the normal rubber, the normal racing line. And what Max is thinking here is I need to rotate the car off the rubber, brake the car off the rubber if I can, and accelerate the car off the rubber. There's 3 things I need to do: brake, rotate, and accelerate off the rubber. And if I do cross over the rubber, crucially, I want to make sure the steering wheel is straight. So what Max does then, you'll notice here, leave a little bit of space into turn 1 to get his rotation done. Max can get his rotation done much quicker than Lando because the car won't turn, the orange will not turn on the rubber. Then when Max goes for the throttle, he cuts across the racing line with the rubber with the steering wheel straight and quickly zooms into this position here. Then he gives it a big armful of steering lock again to turn right, and again crosses over the rubber with the steering wheel straight. So this is short corners, fast in, fast out, small condensed rotation points, right? Exactly like Rob would say. Now, the biggest win here for Max is that come turn 3, he's got his car nicely positioned off the rubber, and you guys see all the damage that Max does in turn 3, right? The whole objective here is to get your foot down as quickly as possible through turn 3. That's the longest corner. Now with Lando, it's actually hard to, you're on the rubber, it's hard to, like, when you turn here, the car wants to slide off to this number 2 symbol because the front won't bite. And then you've got to catch it and turn to the right. And then when you go for throttle through 2 and 3, it's all sliding all over the place. And there's not much, you can't really leverage the grip that's on the track, right? Whereas Max can. He's like, rotate, bang, straight. Throttle, gives it a little squirt, whoop, through here, stop, rotate, bang, go again. And so when Max applies the throttle, it's not progressive, bang, you got to go for it because you got the steering wheel straight. And that's where you're making up your time, is on the throttle and on the rotation. So how you can see that in the image here is that Max has left half a car width to the apex. And I'm showing you here that he's the blue line going around. Max has left half a car. He's going to do his rotation slightly away from the apex, and Lando's going to do it geometric and normal. So that's your first piece. Your second piece then down at turn 2. Oh, what I didn't show you was this. Have a look at the steering angles. The short corner, you need to put an armful of steering lock in at your rotation. Remember, your rotation is short, sharp, condensed, and strong and sweet, and it needs to be at that point. Whereas geometric is all turn in gently, whereas the short corner is bang, give it an armful of lock. So have a look at the steering. Max has got the steering wheel pretty much straight up and down at 90 degrees, I want to say. And Lando's is slightly back, slightly off from that. Again, that's what you'd expect with these sort of lines going on here. Max with that bigger armful of lock. That's the other thing. So not only the line, have a look at where Max is offset from the curb here, but look where Lando is as well. Now, second to that, as you turn into turn 2, and I've got my red arrow here, again, you're expecting another decent armful from Max to get it into turn 2, because he also wants to get far enough across to the right-hand side for turn 3. Lando, very different story. He's just turning, taking geometric. So again, have a look at the armfuls of lock that Max is putting in. This is not the Red Bull. This is not Max's preferred. This is nothing to do with the car. This is Max like taking advantage of the whole short corner situation. So Max is trying to get across here and get out to the right-hand side, putting in the big armful of lock, and Lando is just taking normal geometric. Now, when Lando gets on the rubber through turn 3, have a look at this big piece of oversteer that happens. You don't see that from Max because he's off the rubber. He's anticipating for where the rubber is going to be. Go back to step 1. That's exactly what I said. Where is the rubber and where do I need to be? Lando's on the rubber here. Of course, you're going to get your little snaps and your little oversteers and so on. If you have a look at the telemetry, and I'll walk you guys through it, I compared Lando's, because this is different. I was looking at the pictures from Lando's quali lap to Max's fastest lap, and now I'm looking at 2 lap times from Lando's quali lap to Max's one of Max's laps, where Max's lap is actually slower. So check this out. This is Lando's qualifying, the 23.4, the pole, and this lap from Max on lap 44 is 4/10 slower. Again, they're not related laps, but the reason I've picked a slower one is just to see, are there still sections of the racetrack where Max is quicker than Lando? Yes, there is. This is turn 3. Have a look at this. The delta goes in Max's favor. Have a look at the speed that Max can carry through turn 3 as he gets on the throttle harder between the corners. Like I said, he's the first man to full throttle as well. Awesome. This is exactly what I spoke about, the short corner, the image is the short. This is how a short corner looks in telemetry. Now, this is interesting. This was the race, and this was embarrassing, humiliating for these drivers. I'm not sure who's on the left here. Max started deep, so it could be Colapinto and I don't know, there's a couple of guys here. But all these guys on the left here, they're all sitting ducks on lap 1. Again, step 1, identify where the rubber is. Step 2, drive off the rubber. It's actually not that difficult when you know. This is Max wrapping up. Bang, bang, bang. He shot all 3 of these cars on the outside of turn 3 here on lap 1, just through lack of knowledge. There's no other reason why these cars can't be doing this. But Max is thinking, like, when Max goes through turn 1, he's thinking about turn 3. I showed you guys the image before, right? This one. That turn 3 line all starts back here at turn 1 in the car positioning. You need to rotate here, then you get the luxury for turn 3. So that's that's Max taking advantage of that. Now, I've always wondered, and maybe you guys in the chat can help me answer this question. Is it that in this situation, like Max drives around 2 or 3 cars here, and he's made 6 positions on the run before turn 4, is it that Max is so much better than others, or is it the competition and drivers that he's driving with are not as good? I'm not sure which one it is. It could be a combination of both. But sometimes when I look at the greatest of all time and then you look at their competition, if you know what you're looking at, sometimes the competition can look a little bit average, right? Let's say it's a good soccer team versus a bad soccer team. And that good soccer team, like they hammer this other soccer team 10-0, for example. Is that soccer team so much better, like the best in the world, the greatest of all time, because they hammered that team 10-0? Or is the team that they hammered 10-0 just rubbish? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Like it is a tough balance, and I'm not sure. Every situation is different. Every sport is different, blah, blah, blah. But I can't help but look at this and be like, yeah, Max has done amazing. I take nothing away from Max. Max did exceptional, and this is great technique, beautiful technique. But I also asked the question, who are these guys on the left and what are they doing as well, which is a valid question. So yeah, I just thought I'd point that out as like, anytime you're looking at someone, the greatest of all time, or is he so good, or is he so good at that, kind of also look at the competition and see what they're doing as well. Anyway, I digress, but this is how Max got it done at turn 3 in the race. And then if I just go over to the track map as well, yeah, I'll highlight, this is the area where I thought Max was getting a lot of damage done here. 1, 2, 3. And similarly, 10, 11, same thing. Because over here is the same thing. You want to do your short corner, rotate, and then you want to be off the rubber through the long turn 11. That's very important as well. So turn 10 and 11 is my next analysis piece. Have a look at here. What's happening here is, again, step 1, where is the rubber? Step 2, get off it. It doesn't need to be more complicated and simple than that. Max spends more time rotating the car through turn 10, holds on to the steering wheel a lot longer because he doesn't want to be stuck here up against this curb, up on the rubber with then no options to go through the long turn 11. Max wants to, put a bit more armful in through turn 10, get away from that rubber, and then make turn 11 flow nice and easier. Again, like I said before, he's 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of other drivers at this point. I noticed it really just with the distance to the curb, like Lando ran fully out and he's got further work to do to get across to the right-hand side off the rubber. Max is already on his way off the rubber, on his way over there. So there's half a car across. So I thought I'd call that out as well. And that image shows you that Max is going to get a better run through turn 11. Next slide, please. And again, have a look at this. Therefore, Max can turn through turn 11 with confidence and go through beautifully. But Lando gets his little slides in the middle. Again, very similar to what we saw at turn 3. Because again, Lando's that fraction on the rubber a little bit more. It's tough out there, Lando. So you want to just, Max sets his car up and sets his corners up. Not sets his car up in terms of setup. He sets his lines up such that he's always in the right position, always off the rubber. Line is very important, guys. I always say on the channel, line is like, if there's one thing you want to nail, it's line. Like start there first, and then it's rates of input and so on. But line has to be bang on. This is turn 11. Again, the same shots comparison I showed you before. Max's speed through there, as I highlight in red, is so much more than Lando, and he's hammering him through there in Delta. More throttle as well, and so on. You guys get the picture. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you guys, like just that I'm not a big fan of short corners, and unless it's in a certain case, like there's a need for it, like in the wet, for example. So I'll show you guys this video. So this is the one from, so again, long corner of constant radius, turn 12 in Spain. It's dry. This is Colapinto, and as he goes into turn, I want to say turn 12 in Spain, trying to do a short corner, go out wide, do the whole V thing, what we drew on the whiteboard before. This is how it looks from the aerial shot, but I don't know, it's not my preferred option through short, sorry, I'm reading the chat. It's not my preferred option through this sequence of corners. This is Liam Lawson doing a short corner. And again, you see the struggles that Liam has on their exit, because what happens with your short corner in the dry is the speed drops out of the car, the downforce drops out of the car in the middle of the corner. And when you go to explode that 1000 horsepower from no speed, no downforce, you get this happen, right? The car says, well, I haven't got any momentum. I've got no air going over the car. This is Carlos Sainz struggling. That's a different situation. And this is Max. That's Max Verstappen. There he is, full-time world champion, executing a short corner through turn 12. Have a look at this, guys. He misses his apex due to understeer, and then he runs wide on the exit due to oversteer. Again, guys, you know I've been highlighting Max's short corner technique in long corners, and I've been always like, it's not my preferred choice. There are better ways through long corners of constant radius, but this is the same damaging technique that's gonna hammer this weekend in the wet as well. So if there's anyone that can V off the corner, it will be Max Verstappen this weekend. I wanted to show you guys as well a good example of Sonoda doing a short corner here and how it looks with the steering wheel and the rotation. So what happens is, let me pause. So with the short corner, the rotation comes on slowly initially because your rotation's further away, and then it needs to come on bang, all in one go, because remember, short condensed rotation period somewhere further away from the corner. Have a look at the steering wheel with Yuki. Watch this. Watch the armful of lock that goes in there. And then all of the rotation's done. So you would think, oh, beautiful. All you got to do is open the steering from here and drive out, right? But the speed and downforce has dropped out of the car. That's the problem. So look, his hands, bang, there's your oversteer moment. That's what the short corner, like, that's the problem with it in the dry. I wanted to share that video with you guys. That's the problem with it in the dry. But in the wet, it's not a problem because you're cutting across, you're off the rubber, you're just cutting across, and you can you're getting the benefit from the rotation that's happening off the rubber, which is huge. Ability to rotate the car off the rubber. Cool. I hope that makes sense. What else did I want to tell you about the wet? Yeah, cool. That's pretty much it, guys. Oh, did I have that telemetry up? Give me a sec. Let me see if I can just, for those that are like, hang on, that doesn't make sense, comparing qualifying versus Max's race, and one's at 1 minute 23 and one's 1 minute 22 and blah, blah, blah. For that person, let me just bring up lap for lap if I can and just show you guys. All right, can you guys see that? So you can pretty much pick any of these laps here where Max, I don't know, lap 58, I guess. I don't know. I'm just picking laps here. I want to have a look at the track dominance. Yeah, there you go. So your track dominance shows you that between turns 2 to 4, Max in blue, he's winning there. And then through 11, Max is winning as well. And that's exactly the two areas where I highlighted to you guys in the video. I've just picked two random laps, got lap 58 in the race, same tire, same compound, whatever, same track conditions. You see the same stuff playing out. Max is chasing after the throttle more on the exit of turn 2. His speed is more, the delta is more in Max's favor. And if we go to turn 11 over here, it's the same situation. It's 11. Same situation. Yeah, particularly here. Have a look at this. Max can really stab and squirt the car on the exit of turn 10, again, because he's off the rubber. So that's helpful. And the steering wheel is straight. Whereas Lando's still on the rubber, still mucking around, spinning the rear tires. Max is going, bang, give me that. And then he rejoins the normal racing line through the exit of turn 11. And that's where things neutralize a little bit. But Max finds that time on the getting that initial rotation, like getting that extra rotation done through turn 11, through turn 10, extra armful of lock that we drew before, off the rubber here, and then bang, give it a squirt. That's where Max is finding his time in the first part of turn 11. So that's just, yeah, this is lap for lap, tire for tire, blah, blah, blah. So if you don't believe me, there you go. Cool. A quick drink, because we're moving nicely. I know it is going to be a long live stream, but I want to cross all these off for you. Give me a sec. Oh, the only other thing I wanted to finish on was do you think Lando's learned from that? Do you think all the other drivers have learned from that? Have all these guys that Max cleaned up here, have all these guys paying attention? Like, do you reckon they've learnt for that? I don't know. Let me know in the chat what you think. But we'll see. We'll see. Like, surely Lando will have learned something from. Like, if you were a Formula One driver, you'd be studying 2024 Max Verstappen like with more detail than what I am, right? Surely. I don't know. Let me know in the chat what you think, like whether or not we're going to see these drivers make the same mistake. Now, look, the only reason I asked this is because we spoke about the tight line in Austin. I was speaking about that in 2024. That was Lando's opportunity to win that race, was to get underneath the rear wing of Max between turns 7 and 8, drive a tight line, get out of dirty air, look after the left front. He didn't do that. He lost. And then this year, I think the title of my thumbnail was same mistake again. When Lando was chasing Leclerc, no tight line to be seen. So that's why I was like, you can't do that. You can't make the same mistake twice. You've got to remember the second mindset, the first mindset. I'm here to learn. I'm curious. I'm going to explore. I'm going to do my best. Then you've got to bring the second mindset, which is I'm the best. I'm going to hammer everyone. So you've got to learn from the mistakes, right? All right, hectic. Let's have a quick look at the track just in the dry now with our dry cap on. How does the track look with the dry? Well, it's a mad track, eh? I love it. Guys, we'll get to your questions in just a sec. I know you guys are hammering the chat. Thank you so much. Okay, the dry. For me, Brazil, it's always been about front grip, eh? Why? Because you've got long corners of constant radius. Long corners, but crucially, constant radius. In that particular type of the 7 technical corners, I want front grip. Turn 9 is a classic example of that. Give me front grip, man. I don't care about the rear. But again, because the whole short corner thing, you're gonna go in, you want to do your rotation as quickly as possible, and then you're gonna come out and you can manage the braking and traction, but you need the rotation. So that's a good example of that. I want front grip here as well. I want front grip into 1. I want front grip into 4. Downforce is significant. I'm not worried about traction. The only place where I would say you need a decent amount of front and rear, this one. My Portuguese is bad. Juncao. I love these names, by the way. Juncao, Mergulho, Pinheirinho, Pico de Pato, Curva do Laranjina, Ferradura, Descida do Lago. I love these names. This is hectic. This is a mad track. So look, front grip. Someone in the chat who's from Brazil or speaks Portuguese, give me a score out of 10. Yeah, this particular corner is, I got my rear grip, right? Because you've just done a bit of rotation here and there's still lock in the car as you come out of 12, still steering lock here. So it could be because, as you guys can see, the corner carries on, still cornering through here. So rear grip, and very important, run onto the straight. Traction is key here in this particular part. Traction, very important here. Otherwise, not so much through 4. Downforce will help me. The rear wing's working. That's all good. Otherwise, I want front grip. So I hope I made that clear. Front grip, give me. Now, look, how do you get this? Look, you guys know my philosophy. If this corner has an 80 km/h apex speed, I'm not that interested in front wing. It's not going to be doing much for me at 80 kilometers. If this one here, turn 10, if this one's got a 75 or 80 km apex, again, the front wing is not the place to go after immediately because, again, at 80 kilometers, your front wing is doing sweet FA through those types of corners, right? Different story through here, through 6 and 7. Ferradura and Laranjina. If you want more front end, yeah, go for it. Whack on a bit of front wing. You're probably doing 250 on the run up here or whatever. All good, the front wings. You understand? So in these corners, 9 and 10, you want a bit more front. I'd be looking at more mechanical components like roll bars and springs and ride heights and whatever. Do you know what I mean? I'd be looking more in that direction. Maybe brake balance, engine braking, And I'm probably roll bar, that sort of thing. But yeah, the reason I wouldn't, because yeah, the front wing might help you through these areas a little bit, tick. But guess what? You're going to be caned for that little benefit you get at 80 kilometers, because you're going to be caned down the highlighted sections of the racetrack, right? Do you follow me? Not cool. So that's where it's like, well, that's where it's like, is it worth it? Now, I'd argue there are better ways to get your rotation. You're going to be caned through carrying the downforce through those sections, and you don't want that. That's not a raceable car. To help out 9 and 10 at 80 kilometers, that's not a raceable car. So I'd be like, keep your front wing off, keep your top speed, and find a more creative solution to get your front end through these corners. What is that exactly? I don't know. That's not my remit. You're going to have to ask like vehicle dynamics, vehicle performance engineer, chassis development, engineering doctor, whatever, to get front end through there. But I just feel like the penalty is not worth it. So I like to have a raceable car here. I like to have something with top speed. It's very important. I want to attack. I want to defend. I want to pass. Like it's really important for me. More than overall lap time sometimes. Yeah, you'd be surprised how raceable this track can be. If you've got no lap time, but you got top speed, like you're halfway there. Yeah, absolutely. I forgot the diff. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, differential. Yeah, thanks guys. Yeah, you guys are legends. Best audience ever. Yeah, bang. Yep, differential. I'd be looking at mechanical tools to get myself through 9 and 10. So that's kind of a little bit of my insight into the dry. In terms of technical corners, this is not a set of S's, even though it's this famous center S. Remember, a set of S's gets longer as you go through. That's very important. So like you fire in the first one or two and then they get longer as you go through. Like for example, Austin, Silverstone, Suzuka, classics, right? Mad, the S's, Suzuka. That's not a set of S's that we have here, but, you know, in respect, Ayrton, it's the center S's, right? So no technical corner here is what I'm trying to say. No technical corners here, nothing here either. Your first technical corner is a long corner of constant radius, Pinarino, turn 10. That's your first technical corner there. And then you could argue that one as well. That's it. So there's only 2 technical corners on the track. Those 2 highlighted where you need front grip. That's about it. Cool. No chicanes, no hairpins, no double apex, no S's, no increasing radius, no decreasing radius as well. Mad. All right. Cool. I know this live stream is going on a bit, but we're getting there, guys. Okay, so we need to talk about compounds and the strategy and so on. Quick question, as it just popped up. Atharva M0911. Can we get a tight line there possibly? Where? Where? Into 9 or 10? I wouldn't. It's not like. No, I think 8 feeds you nicely. Sorry, I think 8 feeds you quite nicely into 9. Like, so you don't have too much like. I just feel like when you come through 8, it feeds you nicely into 9. So it's like, you're not going to bring the car across to the right hand side. You know what I mean? So you're already in a way doing a tight line. It feeds you nicely into 9. It's not feasible to bring the car across to the right hand side and make the corner any more lengthy than it needs to be. So yeah, probably, but it's not like, that's not as significant as like Hungary last 2 corners, for example. All right, let me just bring up the Tyres situation, compounds and strategies on. Hey, did you guys see that the F1 are talking about making 2 stops mandatory for next year? And I was like, didn't I say something like that in Monaco? Now, let me bring it up for you guys now. Let's have a look. This is courtesy of Formula Aerodynamics. Let's have a look at it. I'll bring the question down. Okay, thanks, Marlon. Cool. Thank you. Formula Aerodynamics. F1 is considering a rule change for 2026 that would force drivers to make at least 2 pit stops per race. Let's urge no more one-stop boring aero wash races. Let's see them on different types of tire. Maybe You're bringing 3 compounds to the track. Let's use them all. You know what I mean? Make it, make them all mandatory. So the options are use of all 3 tire compounds. Okay, that's the one I recommend. 2-stop with no compound rules. No, that's a yawn. That's going to be medium, 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 or like stints of medium, 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 or hard, 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 or soft, soft, soft. That's boring. That one's got to go. Limit stint lengths to 45% of the race distance. Yeah, but what about the tires? Is that still medium, medium, medium? Because if so, I don't want it. So listen, this is what I said in Monaco. Have a listen to this. I understand why Monaco, because they're trying to spice up the race. But what about the one stop that we had in Imola with Max? What about the Japan, how that race was so kind of dry and didn't have enough action? What I've always said is like all of the races, you should have to use each type of compound of tire, because I think that spices up a bit of a lottery in the race. And you just get to see the different characteristics of the cars at different times on different tires. And it really makes a difference now if you start on the medium, for example, because then you've got to go soft hard or hard soft. And if you start on the soft, you've got to go medium hard. And it just at different points in the race, you're going to get drivers on different compounds of tires. And I think that would make for more exciting racing. I think they should do that as standard, right? Just forgetting the Monaco weekend for a second. I understand why Monaco. Come on, cuz. F1 are going to make changes. At least quote me and say, hey, listen. I'm joking, of course. But I think it's the right direction, right move, like I said. The only other thing I would add is qualifying's not great format at the moment. I don't like to watch the start-finish line and see the drivers just come across the start-finish line and then you get the lap times on the ladder. No. I'm a driver coach. I want to see the lap. Hamilton locked up at turn 4. I want to see it. I don't want to see a replay of it. I don't want to see the pole lap on YouTube like 8 hours after the action. I want to see like in real time. So I say all that to say it should be Q1 as per normal. Guys, this is going to be my next one. Q1 as per normal, Q2 as per normal. Bang. If you make it into Q3, top 10 shootout, 1 lap qualifying. Pressure, weather, tire prep, like one shot. It's going to be mad the way that'll mix up the grid. If you combine that with this mandatory use of each compound of tire, and then you've got the cars that can follow cars, we're set, we're laughing. So yes, I agree with that, and I think we should do it. Anyway, let's have a look at the compounds we've got this weekend, because I say all that to say, I think Pirelli have taken a step backwards for this weekend. This year's compounds for the Sao Paulo Grand Prix harks back to 2023 with a C2, C3 and C4. Therefore, 1 step harder than the trio used last year. Why? Why, cuz? What are we doing? We just brought softer compounds to Mexico and had a mad race. I guess because they nominate these tires in advance, maybe, and we got to stick with it. But surely softer is the way to go. There's tires, let them, do you know what I mean? Promote pit stops. Encourage degradation. I don't know, guys. What do you reckon? Anyway, I don't want to read the rest of this. Last year, the dry weather tires were not required, but when they were used on Friday and Saturday, they showed high levels of wear as well as graining on the rear axle. Oh, we can't have that. We can't have that. We can't have graining on the rear axle, cuz. Nah, it's got to be, nah, we can't have that. We've got to go to the harder compounds. Surely we can't have graining on the rear axle. The circuit had been completely resurfaced, thus leaving a very smooth surface, less abrasive than in previous years, although with still plenty of bumps around the track. Okay, fine. Bumps are character, no dramas. If conditions are similar, with the inevitable variations due to the aging of the asphalt, the decision to bring harder compounds could extend the performance life of tyres. That's exactly what we need, Pirelli. We just need tyres that can last all day, all night, ongoing, indefinitely, into the future, forever. Amen. Come on, we need tyres that are going to degrade. So let's bring, like, what are we doing here? This is rubbish. I'm not reading it anymore. No more Pirelli PR news. Okay, what else do I need to tell you guys? Predictions for this weekend. Let's talk about it. Well, if it's wet, the short corner master Max, surely. I mean, but then again, I go back to my question. Has Lando learned anything? Has the other drivers learned anything? Are we going to see another short corner master, do some magic out there? So And then the question is for me in the sprint, how well can Max get up there? Like how, I mean, I'm talking about sprint qualifying in the dry. Can Max take pole? Can he compete with the McLarens? Like that's going to be hard. So just because Max is not in the best car at the moment, I still think that's the McLaren. And we spoke about front grip and front end. That's something the McLaren has in spades around here, guys. Front grip and front end is going to, there's a McLaren will be strong and it's got good traction out of 12 as well. It's going to, like Max will have his work cut out on Friday. But then Max the Master, when it rains, will be back strong on Saturday. So that's kind of my predictions. Turn one, lap one, and restarts. Turn one, lap one, you guys know my philosophy, look for space and look for grip. In this particular case, like I'm prioritizing space. Something's telling me space is more important. It doesn't matter where that space is, just there's going to be so much like congestion and claustrophobic, whatever, into here. The space I think is more important. If you have to go the outside and then inside, that's fine. If you want to go the other way, it's fine as well. If it's wet, of course, make sure you're here. That's fine. But I think I'd be putting them in this order. I look for space. Secondly, I'd look for grip. Cool. I'm okay with that. And I think with the safety car restart, guys, let me know in the chat what you think. What are you guys saying here? At lower lap time, do you think a car that's good in Austin or somewhere like Suzuka will be good here? Well, here we want front end. Austin and Suzuka, not necessarily. Austin and Suzuka both with their high-speed S's. Like you're just stable car, good in direction change, good balance front to rear. Here I want like front grip. I need more front grip in long corners. Suzuka and Austin, plus in those two tracks, downforce is significantly active. What I mean by that is you're flying through those corners at 200, 180, 220, 240, 260. Like the quick downforce is significant. In the corners that I'm highlighting for you, downforce is not that significant. So it's a very different situation. So I would say, and then you got the altitude. So I don't want to shut down your question, but I would say not so much, not just like that. Like there's more to consider, different things to consider here this weekend. Like I said, front end, slow speed corners, altitude, and so on. Perhaps like Hungary, yeah, maybe. Starting to get into the long corner territory, starting to get into the front end being important. Yeah, and you got Austria for the elevation, maybe with the, yeah, maybe Hungary. Something slow speed with long corners. So yeah, and there's nothing like it. Like all the tracks are unique, and that's what. Yeah, you guys are smashing questions already. Which do you think Max or McLarens will be strong in Brazil? I kind of just said like in the dry on Friday, it'll be hard for Max, but in Saturday, Max, it'll be a mixed weekend. I'm looking forward to watching. That's why we're going to tune in, is because I can't tell you. All I can tell you is yeah, cool. Okay, so just the safety car restart. Okay, so your two options for the safety car restart are as follows. This is important, guys. If it's raining, and someone's in the wall, like, Colapinto's over here. I'm joking, so someone's in the wall over here, then this is important. Where do we do our safety car restart? So your options are, yes, you are the first person to get the steering wheel straight out of turn 12. I like that. Traction is important, priority out of turn 12 because the steering wheel is maintained through the exit. That's great. Tick. No DRS on the first lap. Tick. I like it. You've got a long straight to which you're going to get slipstreamed, but we're at altitude. Altitude. So therefore, slipstream is not going to be huge, particularly with no DRS. I think the safest thing to do, therefore, is go for it out of 12, be the first person to get the steering wheel straight, bang, accelerate out of 12. Meanwhile, your friend is just coming through and just can't, is delayed in how they can get on throttle, right? Yeah. Lo siento a toda la gente en Argentina, no es en serio. Somos amigos, en serio. He estado en Argentina, en Bariloche, en Califate, y tengo una copa, mira. Look at this. Mira. I'm a big Argentina fan. That's from Bariloche. I love Franco and I love Argentina. um, yeah, I think out of 12 looks good. Now, your only other option is to do the whole Max thing and the Carlos Sainz thing in Baku, which I'd like. Why? You know what I mean? Like, there's no downside. We spoke about the altitude and the slipstream. There's no altitude. Thanks, Barbara. Yeah, me entendiste, ¿cierto? Yeah, I'd go out of 12 because there's no air at altitude. We're at like 800 meters, so there is air, but I'm exaggerating. So the slipstream effect is negligent, and there's no DRS, so you're safe to take this traction advantage. And yeah, you're safe to take this traction advantage and for no real loss. So I would do it out of turn 12. Cool. Okay, I know that was a good live stream. Thanks for staying with me. Now I will take your questions from the floor. Give me a 2-minute break and I will be back. I'll grab a drink. You guys whack your questions in. When we get back, a quick Q&A, and then we'll get out of here. Post your questions in the chat now. Alrighty, we're back. Let's have a look at what questions you guys put through. Vinifero _ says, as a Brazilian, I'm jealous of your love for Argentina. I love Brazil as well. I've never been there, unfortunately. We did a South America trip last year. We did parts of Chile, mainly for the wine, and same with Argentina, but the history, the architecture is nice. We didn't unfortunately get to Brazil. It's hard from Australia. Like, it's an extra. You got to go Sydney, Santiago to Buenos Aires, and then maybe, I don't know, it's really far. I would love to go. My partner's been. Brazilian people are super nice, super into their well-being and their health, like yoga, Pilates, gym, lifestyle. The chimarrão, which I want to try, coffee, chocolate. I would love to go. It's a shame that in this life we may or may not get to experience other cultures, and the ones that you do get to experience, I'm grateful for. So it's on my list, and I love Brazilian people. Another Savior Savvy says, does that work in the wet? The side to side go restart, max pulled. No, the whole zigzagging thing, I'm not a fan of it. I think that in Baku, Max made a mistake there, and it was only Carlos's blunder for not keeping Max honest. I mean, you're going to have to go watch my Brazil post-race analysis, but it was only Carlos's blunder, his mistake, that got Max off the hook in that situation. I'm not a big fan of the whole zigzag thing. I think there are better ways to do a restart. Doesn't matter if it's wet or dry. I don't like it. Aris Conidaris, at lower lap time, love your work. What if all the rubber has been completely washed off the track? Is short corner still the way to go? I imagine not. That's a really good question. It's a really good question. In some strange way, it still is. I get what you're saying. The logic is like, well, if there's no rubber on the track, then there's equal grip between racing line normal and, you know, the outside of the corner off the rubber. In theory, yes, but somehow there always is. There always is. There might not be. It's a difference in extent. There might not be to the extent of a rubbered in track, but they're just always. It'll always slippery on the racing line. Again, difference in extent. Sometimes it's slipperier than others. Obviously, if it's really heavy rubbered in and then a little bit of light rain, it's going to be super slippery. But it always is slippery, and it's a difference in extent. I would say that, yes, in that situation, when the track has been washed and then it's like intermediates, which means you can kind of keep the minimum speeds up and it's heading towards dry, it's only partly wet, very light spray, but then I'm very safe to move over to normal dry lines, not a problem. But it's just when in that heavy, full wet condition, and particularly if the track is rubbered in, then you'll switch over to short corners. But look, I would recommend short corners as my default, and then bring the curiosity. Like what you say might be bang on, absolutely true. There's nothing stopping you from just trying it. Like you've got 58 laps in the race or whatever. Just try it on one of the laps, obviously. Do you know what I mean? But I suspect that it will be slippery. on the normal racing line, even if it's had a heavy rain. It might look clean to the eye and look green, but it's still slippy. It's a good question, mate. Really good question. Love that. There's so many coming through. I just want to get them in order. Give me a sec. Gavin Finlay, Martin, amazing. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Cool. Go down. Go down. This stupid chat. Yeah, here we go. Barbara, question. I'm following today with Google Earth on the side. I see banking angle on turn 1. Okay, yep, that's true. With elevation lost around 10 to 12 meters down to turn 3. Good shout, Barbara. That's true. Also, the escape route at turn 1 is wild. How does banking affect? Well, because it's between turn 1. I mean, you're right, Barbara. You're absolutely right. Before I give you a response, that's a good question. Now, let me think about it. What my initial response was, it starts to fall away here, and then, funnily enough, the biggest drop is kind of between turn 1 and 2, and then once you're down the bottom here at the curb between, turn 2 and 3, it's pretty flat thereafter. So I'm going to say flat here. This is the biggest drop, and then here's where it starts. So you're right. It comes back to that. It comes back to braking with elevation. I think I had a piece on this in Austria. If you watch the Austria live stream or go back, I had a piece on that, because Austria, you're braking uphill at turn 3 and you're braking downhill into turn 4, right? There's 2 corners there in Austria where you're braking really uphill and really downhill. So this would fall into the braking downhill category. I like to not change too many things, whether you're braking uphill or downhill, because the corner type actually takes priority. So for example, if you're braking uphill into a hairpin, but you're braking downhill into a decreasing radius corner, the fact that they're a hairpin and a decreasing radius corner take more priority than the fact that one is uphill and one is downhill. So in this particular case, you're trailing into turn 1. You want to trail out of the brakes, brake a little bit earlier, obviously, because you're braking downhill. But in terms of how you apply the brakes and how you combine that with the steering and your brake balance and engine braking and everything, the corner type, being decreasing radius, for example, is more significant than the elevation, the downhill. So I hope that helped. That's a really good question as well. Mad question. Take care and see you for the races. Thank you. Row 1179. Which car/driver is the biggest threat to Max after the McLarens in the dry? Yeah, this is a big talking point, something I didn't mention. Can a Ferrari get in there? Can a Mercedes get in there? Probably not Mercedes. They were pretty average in Mexico. And probably not Ferrari, I don't think. But potentially, we spoke about the engine thing with the whole altitude. It's not to the extent of Mexico. It's still high altitude, but it's not like crazy high. Maybe a Ferrari here. I think that'll be a bigger story in Vegas. It'll be a big story in Vegas. George almost certainly can get in there. Kimi Antonelli possibly as well. But then I would say, like, getting ahead of Max is not going to be the problem, because they're going to be getting ahead of the Oscar and Lando. If you're a Max fan, they're going to get in between McLaren. Like, Max will be there. Max will always be up there. It's whether or not those guys can get in between the McLarens. So they're not so much of a threat to Max. They're actually a threat to the McLaren drivers. They got the lead and they can afford to finish behind Max. They can't afford to finish 2, 3, 4, 5 places behind Max. So I think they're not a threat to Max. They're a threat to Oscar and Lando. But yeah, I think this weekend, maybe Ferrari, I have half an eye on them, maybe. I mean, I don't have much faith in Ferrari. But Vegas, yeah, Mercedes can get in there, absolutely. Stead, 3582. Can Oscar do a comeback without a Lando DNF? Yes, he can. He needs to. He's just got to refine. I mean, I'm not close enough to his problems and his mindset and all of that. It's all to play for. Last couple of races here, it's all to play for, which is great. We're going to see them. We're going to see the best come out of them. Luke, man, thanks. Cool. Yeah. Will the FIA find something illegal on the McLaren's car just to make it more exciting to the end of the season? I don't know. If there's nothing illegal, then no, they won't. Thank you so much for your insights, Martin. Makes me watch F1 in more three-dimensional for me, if you know what I mean. I know what you mean. Thanks, Denise. And that's the aim. I hope it helps you look at it and look out for the things that we're talking about. And yeah, awesome. Happy to hear. Thank you, Denise. There's so many questions. Go back. Oh my God. Max Flash Hut. Question or similar. Thanks, Max. Question. Why does Leclerc struggle in the wet, in your opinion? It's got to do with the short corners. He's not doing them to the level of that Max is. Max is acutely aware. Max is the racing driver's racing driver. He's acutely aware of, like, I look at it in terms of racecraft as well. Max is amazing racecraft. Attack, defense, starts, restarts. Leclerc as well is, for me, is not the best in racecraft. And the wet, similar, because I just think it's a knowledge gap. I think Max knows, pull to the inside, outbrake, fight and compete for the apex, get your nose ahead. And in the wet, Max knows, identify the rubber, get off the rubber, do your rotation off the rubber, steering wheel straight, short corners. I don't know, Leclerc's got that level of knowledge. I'm not sure. I don't think it's as good as Max in the wet. So why does Leclerc struggle in the wet? He might not be going out and searching for those places where there's braking grip, rotation grip, and traction grip. Like Lando, you guys saw the onboard pictures that I showed you about half an hour ago. Same sort of thing. Like, yeah, there's a massive difference in the line that they take. Max is putting in more effort to go searching for more cleaner places off the rubber. It's just that if Charles was driving parts of the track where Max is, then for sure he can be as quick because his inputs can be there. Leclerc's like extremely, there's nothing wrong with Leclerc's coordination. He can do it. I just think you got to dot your I's and cross your T's in the wet. At lower lap time, do you think Max could come to regret his engine penalty for this weekend? I didn't know he had one. That's news to me. Does he start lower? I didn't know. Sorry, I didn't know about that. Fill me in. What happened? Yeah, it's not helpful if he has one. At Kiko, he doesn't. Marta mentioned in one of his previous live stream that he wanted to watch the race in peace. Oh, doing the lives. Yeah. I'm not a big fan. There's enough guys that do that, and sometimes it takes me a while after the race to just research, like, hang on, what happened there, and yeah. You know what I mean? I like to check the telemetry and make sure the story I'm telling you is where the lap time actually is. And so that's the first part of the mentality, like willing to learn, be curious, double check everything and make sure that I try to present you guys not only just a narrative, but like pieces of evidence that will hopefully support that narrative as well. But after the live stream, hopefully you guys know more or less what to look out for and you probably know what I'm thinking. Pull to the inside, or go off the rubber, or do the restart out of turn 12. You guys will know, you got an insight from the live stream. Brazil with poor quality tarmac and harder compounds, the main topic could be switching on the tire. Yes, that's true. What do you think, legend? Yeah, that's true. And we got the harder compounds this weekend. So yes, absolutely. Switching on the tire. Yeah. So getting it up to temperature, and it's a short lap as well. It's a minute 10 in the dry. So you got to go out there, get that tire fired up and switched on, ready for its qualifying lap with the harder compounds that we have this weekend. Good point. Absolutely. I'd say it's only really relevant for Friday sprint quali, because then you've got rain on Saturday for sprint race and main quali. So it'll be a piece to look out for the sprint quali. Thank you. Very true. At lower lap time question, how do you think the racing will be affected in rain with downforce decreasing next year? Also as general overall. Well, in the rain, your speeds are down anyway. So, right? When speed is high, downforce is significantly active. In the rain, speeds are low, downforce is less significantly active. So then if your question's asking about how it's affecting in the rain, I don't think it'll change that much, other than maybe visibility and, it's still going to be mechanical and lines and short corners and all of that. Generally speaking, in the dry, yeah, I think it'll be good. I've always thought we need to have less downforce on the cars. I spoke about this with Ian on the Mind and Machine podcast once, and I was like, I don't want no downforce because F1 is downforce, but downforce creates a lot of problems following other cars. And tight lines are more of a thing when downforce is not significant. So I think I'm all for trimming out, the big flaws and the big diffusers and keep them the horsepower, make them struggle a bit more for traction, and braking grip. You'll see a lot more driving techniques. The downforce masks a lot of this stuff. So I don't like that. So obviously you need downforce. That's what makes F1 so special. But I personally, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but I would like to see trim a little bit more downforce away. So I'm looking forward to that. Cool. A couple more questions. At Eric Heidman, extremely focused mindset versus driving excellent. Which one would prevail? I think the mindset. It's a good question. But are they not related? Like, how does Max have such excellent wet weather driving if not for the extreme focused mindset? They're related. It's tricky to have one without the other. Right? Yeah. I mean, the extremely focused mindset is going to lead you downstream to excellent driving. So it starts with the mindset. So you've got to start there. Do your study, do your prep, do your practice, do your homework, and then you'll get the excellent drive. I think they're related. So I'm not sure they're mutually exclusive. Let me know what you think about my answer. Question. Are there any obvious, Robot 1179, are there any obvious wet driving line corner learnings drivers will have picked up from last year? Yeah, well, that's my question too. After everything I've just explained, like, have they learned from it? You know what I mean? Or are they playing golf? I don't know. I'm not sure. You'd hope so. You'd think so. But yeah, I've certainly learned a lot from it. Hopefully I've shared some of it with you earlier on in the stream. Maybe you didn't see, but we will see. And the reason I'm a bit skeptical or unsure is because, sometimes, particularly in the hands of Lando, it takes him more than twice to clean things up. Might take him 5 or 6 times. We'll see. Max doesn't have an engine penalty this weekend, I'm pretty sure. I don't know where you got that info from. Thank you. That clarifies it. We'll go for a couple more minutes. Look, I want to get through. You guys hung around, asked me questions. Lacoro, question. Would it be the best case scenario for the 3 championship contenders for quali to be cancelled? The drivers would have to line up on the grid based on the driver's standing. Would it be the best case scenario for the 3 championship? I think it's going to all affect them differently. It's a good case scenario for Lando, you start on pole. It's probably not a good case scenario for Max, who thought, hang on, it's raining, I can get pole on my own, don't line me up third. Do you know what I mean? So by you grouping the 3 championship contenders together, you got to look at it in the case, is it good for Lando? Is it good for Oscar? And is it good for Max? I'd say it's a dream for Lando to get pole without, and it's disingenuous for the Regenmeister Max. That make sense? All right, what else? We've got a few more questions. It's hard to find the questions because, just for your context, guys, this chat plugin that I have so I can bring the questions up for you, it doesn't bring the questions in live. It's like they come in blocks. So I'll be answering a question and then the next block of questions comes in. So I've got to go back up and find it, but we'll get there. Here we go. Question. How does this track suit Lewis's adapted driving style in the Ferrari? Well, that's a 2-part question. What is Lewis's adapted driving style in the Ferrari? That's the first part. Has he adapted his driving style? Which parts of his driving style has he adapted? Got to answer that first, and then we've got to come to how does it match with this track? Has Lewis adapted his driving style in the Ferrari? Maybe. I mean, I don't have I'm not close enough to the source to be able to know in which areas. I'd say, if anything, Lewis is trying to adapt the Ferrari to his driving style, keeps asking for more rear grip, for example. So I don't think Lewis has entirely adapted his driving style to the Ferrari. He's trying. They're both trying. They both need to come together. The car and driver need to come together. But you got to be a bit more like where, when, how, why, and then talk about as it relates to Brazil. It's a big question. It's a big piece. I haven't done that analysis. I'm sorry. I do know Lewis is trying to add more rear grip to the Ferrari. Lewis always wants more rear grip because he brakes late and hard on the entry. And Ferrari are trying to give him that. Is that Lewis adapting his style? I don't know. I don't know enough about it. Sorry. It's a big question. You've asked a big piece that I don't know. I'd have to talk to Lewis to understand exactly how much he wants the Ferrari to come to him and how much he's willing to compromise and go to the Ferrari. I don't think Lewis is, just my initial thoughts and like my initial instinct, I don't think Lewis is that willing to bend on his driving style that's won him 7 championships. He probably wants the car to be molded more around him. I'd be leaning more that way. Cool. Yeah, we'll go for another 5 minutes. We'll finish on the hour. Let's have a look. Martin, you keep saying Max is the best in the wet, but Piastri was the quickest driver in 3 wet races this season. Lemeo, why? Well, you keep saying Max is the best in the wet. He's definitely the best in the wet. Piastri's in the MCL 39. You've got to normalize for that when you're comparing the drivers. Put Max in that MCL 39 up against Oscar. You don't think he'll be slapping him in the wet? He'll be hammering Oscar in the wet. Did you see the extent to which the McLaren boys pulled away from Max in Silverstone? Oscar pulled away, Lando pulled away, they hammered Max. Max's car had no grip in the wet in Silverstone. You have to remind me where were the other wet events. But I mean, I have no doubt Max is the best driver on the grid in the wet. So you got to normalize for the car. Once you do that, Huddy Mac, report back to me. Cool. Now, I'm not taking away from I mean, maybe I am taking away from Oscar. He's not as good as Max in the wet. Yeah. Oscar hasn't been good in quali and Max won't have the penalty to worry about. For him to worry about, no. Oscar, he out-qualified Lando in Singapore and that's still in my head. It's still there. Oscar's still there. He's not disappeared. It looks like it, but Huddy Mac, you're joking, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, most of you guys on the channel are aware that Max is the best in the wet. Max didn't have optimal setup. Yeah. Okay, you guys are hammering this guy. All right. Any more questions? Because we've got a few minutes. So stop saying Max is the best in the wet, because when Max is good in the wet, the other drivers won't be on optimal setup. You got to normalize for the car. If Max is good in the wet, it's because he's outperforming the car that he's in or doing something amazing, like coming from 17th to win. And do you know what I mean? You've got to look at it in a bit more context, I think. Yeah. Okay. You're Aussie, I can tell. Which part of Australia are you from? Let me know in the chat where you're from. It's fine. It's no problem. I'm Aussie too. I want Oscar to do well as well, but I can't. If he's not as good as Max in the wet, I'm not going to sit here and say Oscar's actually better than Max, but Max got lucky. You know, I'm not going to say that. So we've got to be honest as well. Couple more questions. 3 minutes remaining. Can you explain what basic changes in aero must be made when going from dry to rainy? Thanks, teacher. Good question. I mean, you would like Silverstone is a really good example. So it was dry in quali. Max took pole with a mad low downforce setup, super mad low downforce setup. And then in the race, he was nowhere. He got hammered because that low downforce setup didn't serve him very well. To the point, the question before, like Max's car was horribly set up for the wet. And they took a gamble, we'll take pole and see what happens. And I don't blame them for that. That's the racing team in Red Bull. Let's go for it. Let's put the car on pole and see what happens. So more aero, to answer your question, what basic changes? Yes, slap on more overall downforce. I would, depending on the corner types, I was going to say I would lean more towards front downforce. Depending on the corner types, if it's Spain, for example, you got to consider the rear as well. Is help, but more overall downforce. Sometimes more front, sometimes more rear. But yeah, more overall is helpful. A couple more. What do we got? What do we got? Cameron, I'm from Melbourne. Yeah, no, I was asking the other guy. The other guy who said that you're from Australia and Belgium. Okay. Which part of Australia, mate? Here we go. Make your argument, because if he's the best, why is he slower in Australia and Belgium? Let's forget about Silverstone because you keep saying you didn't have the right setup. The car, I mean, yeah, with respect, Huddy Mac, you got to normalize for the car and then come back to me. That's it. There's no more complicated than that. And if I try to normalize for the cars, I think what Max does in the wet is amazing. TKD at lower lap time. Do you think Max should help with the slip to Yuki to get to Q3? No, I wouldn't waste my time. Don't worry about it. Just crack on and do your own thing. Yeah, Max is in the RB21. Yeah, you guys get it. All right. There will be one more final question. And I'm reading through to find a good one. I agree with your mindset. Okay, you can tell if you watch 24 Brazil. 100% watch that race. Lando is locking in. Oscar, lower lap time. Last question. I'm going to guess you're in Perth. I am in Perth. How did you know that? Maybe because I've said it on the channel 100 times. Tell me how you knew. If he's willing to take a penalty. Well, Max, I'm looking for the last question because Australia was a drawing track. Yeah. This is the last question. From Farhan. These names, sorry guys. Will you make videos in the winter break? Maybe some kart, like I want to get the KZ back out on track, do a few karting videos, maybe a vlog. What would you want to, I mean, sometimes it's nice to take a break as well and switch off a little bit and maybe read up on the rules, do a little bit more research, see what's happening. I'll cover testing, for sure I'll cover testing. But what would you want to see? That would be my other question as well. I'm probably not going to make videos like a content creator would, and every week, oh, Oscar Piastri said this and it's going to be his year and this is the secret reason why. I'm probably not going to do that sort of stuff. Maybe the odd live stream and Q&A, maybe catch up, see, like, it doesn't even have to be F1 related. Maybe we can talk about Christmas. What are you guys up to? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Like I said, I want to do karting, so I might bring a camera and do like a vlog and show you guys around KZ, track. Yeah, let me know in the comments of this live stream. Yes, no, what you want to see and so on. Guys, thanks for coming. Leave a comment on your way out. Conclusions, watch out for the short corners in the wet. Look out for that. I think to that guy's point, the switching on the tires in the sprint is going to be important. The wind direction in the sprint race is huge. Safety car restarts out of Junção. Look for a raceable car, something with good top end. It's going to help you in attack and defense. And enjoy the weekend. And I'll give you guys my insights as always. So thanks for watching. Leave me a comment on your way out. Enjoy the weekend.